So Enhypen released their brand new logo a couple of weeks ago, and can I just say, this entire thing looks like a perfume ad. I mean, take a look at this and you'll see exactly what I mean.
Radiant, carefree, dreamy, Adrian, the fragrance.
I also saw some people comparing it to like Whiplash's music video for some reason. I mean, just because they're wearing black and are walking around in a white box doesn't really mean anything. But the important thing is that Enhypen is entering a new era, which basically solidifies that OT6 is here to stay and nothing is going to change about it, most likely. You know, Evan debuted, he's doing his own thing, Enhypen's coming back with an OT6 album, they rebranded everything, so it's done. The dust has settled, the situation's over. As for the logo change, I don't really care. I mean, I don't know what the hell this is supposed to mean. People are talking about dimensions and, you know, the Enhypen is in the N, or I don't know. Okay, I don't give a fuck. The last one was like simple, it was easy to understand, it was memorable. Now it just looks like some random ass company. You know, at the end of the day, I do not care. I mean, Enhypen is Enhypen. As long as they're making good music, I'm gonna keep coming back. So first I want to talk about how they messed up the entire Heesung leaving situation, because they made that entire situation a whole lot worse than it had to be because they just didn't communicate well. They were absolutely terrible at letting the fans know what was going on. Like, they literally told us the news and just poured salt in the wound, ripped the band-aid off, and just made it so much worse than it had to be by just not communicating properly. I mean, they sent that one message on Weverse. They also sent that handwritten letter that Heesung wrote. Belift were just like, hey, you know the ace of the group, the all-rounder, the oldest member that everyone looks up to that's been here since debut. Yeah, he's gone. That's all we had to say, goodbye. And that caused the fandom to completely go into shambles. I mean, on one side we had OT7 Engine who were like, with the deal, this can't be happening, I don't believe it. Because it was weird. It was really weird how they handled it. There was no send-off, there was no nothing. And it was really suspicious. I'll give it to you. And then there were OT6 engines that were like, you know, Heesung, you got this. You go do that solo thing you want to do. And I'm going to be honest, at the beginning, I was one of those OT7 guys. I didn't believe it was happening. I didn't think they were serious about it. I thought it was some like crazy promo or something, you know? And I feel like these OT7 engines weren't exactly mad that Heesung was leaving. They were mad that it wasn't being treated like the big deal that it was, because this is huge. That's huge news. Nobody would have ever expected an Enhypen member to leave the group because, you know, they're so tightly knit. They've been together for ages. And there were no signs of any sort of like disputes or anything like that. Like, there were just so many red flags to make the situation a whole lot more suspicious and worse that people started getting paranoid. Like, they were supposed to go on Good Morning Australia, and that was all planned. You know, OT7 was supposed to be there, and like between the announcement and actually going there, Heesung left like right in the middle. They also just dropped the Sin Vanish. It came out like, what, a month, 2 months before he left. And also the fact that other members have also done solo work on the side. Like, Jay has been a feature on a couple of songs. Mind you, it's not an entire like solo career like what Heesung wants to do, but I'm sure Belift could have accommodated. They only had 2 groups. So making him leave just so he could do solo stuff was a bit weird as well. Another pretty big thing was that the Enhypen members, like the remaining 6, couldn't really talk about the situation. They just acted like it didn't happen. They weren't able to address the elephant in the room, and that was also pretty fucking weird. I'm pretty sure the only time they brought up like the changes to the group is when Jay was like, you know, you guys have to stop spamming Enhypen is 7. You gotta stop doing all that stuff on his birthday live. Like, I remember instead of celebrating his birthday, everyone was like, Enhypen is 7, bring back Heesung. And he had to tell them, like, you guys gotta fucking stop. Like, it's getting bad.
Enhypen is 1, Enhypen is 1. Like I'm okay. I actually don't care, so I'm okay. Enhypen is Enhypen, and I always try my best to ignore that, so I'm okay. But don't do that to other members, especially at their birthday. Like, I'm okay, but please don't do that to others.
But that's the only time I think they've directly like said something about it. I remember there was an interview a while ago and they were like, you know, there's been some changes to the group, changes to the formation, something like that. I'll play the clip if I have it, but I'm not sure.
There's been a bit of changes in the choreo with the formation, all that. So we've been practicing a lot. So yeah.
So with all of these red flags, it's not a surprise that, you know, every single fandom came together and supported Heesung. It's not a surprise that like 2 million people signed that petition. Also, is this a safe space to say that I didn't really like Heesung's song? I didn't really like Ride or Die, as much as Overflow at least. Mainly because of the chorus. Like, the chorus has way too much fucking auto-tune, and I think it kind of messes up like his vocals. Like, he's a very vocal, like, he's vocally talented. That's what I'm trying to say. He's vocally talented. He, like, we heard him on Helium. He's amazing. We hear him in Fatal Trouble, you know. And I feel like for his debut, it would have been amazing if he showed off those vocals like that. Instead, he kind of just flooded it with auto-tune, and it kind of didn't sound great. Maybe that's the style that he's going for, like more like rock, like whatever that theme that, I don't know what I'm saying. Like, most of the song is right, I just can't stand the chorus at all. Another thing I want to go over is how Enhypen's concept changed like a couple of years ago when they lost that darkness in their concept, which was pretty cool. By the way, this entire section is super duper inspired by this video by Purple TJ, so go check that out. It's a pretty good video. He's got a bunch of videos on Enhypen and other groups and stuff. You should go check out his channel, it's pretty good. So if we take a look at some of Enhypen's older music, mainly Dark Blood, that was like the big one. We have this like dark concept mixed in with really good music. And this balance made Bite Me one of their biggest songs like ever. But then in their next album, Orange Blood, the sound was completely different. And you know, even in the next album, Romance Untold, it was just completely different. You know, it felt like something big had changed with Enhypen. And something did change, so it's time for a history lesson. Belift Lab was formed as a joint venture between Hype and CJ Enhypen. ENM, whatever. Which means both of them had a say on how Enhypen's music went, how promotion went, all of that jazz. But on August 10th, 2023, it was announced that Hype signed a deal for CJN's entire stake of Belift Lab, thereby gaining complete ownership of the label. This meant that some of what Enhypen stood for, some of what like they were trying to achieve with their music, went completely out the window because CJNM was no longer part of the process. It was fully up to Hype, and they had a completely different vision for the group. Hype wanted to focus more on the Western audience, the larger like American audience. So they hard pivoted the music to focus on that side of the world and that audience. So you know that meant more English tracks, more English features with like American artists, and making more songs that would appeal to non-K-pop listeners. I mean, you know how there are some songs which you would not show your non-K-pop friends because they're just weird. Like, less of that kind of music and more of the music that you would easily just show to anybody. So for Orange Blood, there were English versions and there were American features. Like on Sweet Venom, there was the English version and a version with Bella Porch featured on it. The same thing in Romance Untold, with EXO having an English version and having Jake as a feature on a remix. But the thing is, it didn't seem like Enhypen was that like confident in the music. You know, they didn't know if it would have the same level of impact as, you know, their previous songs.
저희는 되게 좋은데 이게 또 타이틀로는 조금 약하다라는 생각도 맨 처음에는 했어요. 근데
So Sunghoon was not confident in EXO at all because it wasn't like anything they have done before. And even though they weren't really sure if EXO should be the title track, they released the entire album and it went insane. I mean, it had a huge release. It did exactly what Belift and Hype wanted. It appealed to a larger audience, it appealed to a Western audience, and it broke records and whatever across the fucking charts. Like, here's just a list of some of the things that it did. Romance Untold sold 1.8 million copies on the first day of sales, breaking their previous first week sales record in a single day. By July 17th, it passed 2.1 million copies. Romance Untold reached number 1 on iTunes Top Album in 10 different regions, while EXO was the top #1 song in 10 regions. It went amazingly, you know, Belift got exactly what they wanted. So even though EXO wasn't as good as, I don't know, brought the heat back, in terms of musical impact and how good the actual song was, it did what it was supposed to do. EXO appealed to the non-K-pop fans all across the world. And I know this is true because it happened to me. I was a girl group stan for basically, a year-ish? And every time I would make a playlist, Spotify would show me some extra songs on the bottom being like, you might like these songs. And I had seen some pretty good girl group songs from this list. You know, things like Midnight Fiction by Islet, you know, that's a really good one. Roller Coaster by Nmix, that's how I found that as well. But there was one song that kept on popping up in this list, no matter what songs were in my playlist. And that was EXO by Enhypen. So I checked it out and I was like, these guys are pretty good. I checked out some other songs and I started listening to them like crazy. So obviously EXO was the perfect song to get me into them. But like now looking at like all of their songs, it's not even top 10. Like they have so many better songs than EXO. Then again, at least Desire Unleashed sort of locked in that Enhypen sound again with Bad Desire. So I guess we can't complain too much about this entire concept change. But it is kind of a shame. I mean, imagine if we got more songs like Sacrifice and Bite Me. Hopefully the Sin Bliss is like actually pretty hype. It's pretty good. But I don't know if my expectations are high after the Sin Vanish. I didn't really like it. There were about 2 or 3 songs that were really good, but besides that, not the greatest. But the video's over. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments. Genuinely, I know not many people make it to the end of the videos, but genuinely let me know what you guys think. You know, give me a good and hyping opinion. I reply to most of the comments, so do leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.